Yes, hello everyone. Welcome to the course called Political Sociology. And in this course, in this class particularly, and we will be discussing about the Political Sociology course and its introduction, definition, nature, and scope. We'll try to understand how political sociology finds its relevance within the broader discipline of political sociology. I mean, sociology discipline. As the political sociology is a specialized branch of sociology that studies the relationship between society and politics. It examines how social structures, institutions, and cultural practices influence political processes such as power, authority, governance, and decision making. Unlike traditional political science, which focuses mainly on formal political institutions such as state, government, constitution, and so on and so forth. Whereas political sociology goes deeper into how social factors like caste, class, gender, religion, and ethnicity shape political behavior and outcomes. Therefore, it essentially tries to answer questions like uh, who holds power in society and why, and how do social inequalities influence politics, and how do people participate in political processes. I think these are the broader, questions where political sociology tries to answer, tries to offer an explanation. Otherwise, so before going into deeper parts of this explanation, so now let us try to understand the definitions given by a lot of various scholars. Particularly, different scholars have defined political sociology in various ways. For instance, Martin Lipset, and he says that political sociology is the study of the social basis of politics, whereas Max Weber defines and emphasized the political sociology as the study of power, authority, and legitimacy in society. Robert Michael, and he focuses on elite dominance and introduces the idea of the iron law of oligarchy. Whereas Parsons Talcott Parsons, very famous sociologist, and where he viewed political systems as part of the broader social system, in maintaining the order and law. In simple terms, in simple terms, political sociology studies, how society shapes politics and how politics in return shapes society. It's like a mutual influencing each other. How politics influences the social structure and how the social structures influences the political nature. So therefore, the political sociology as a discipline tries to understand the interplay between these two social processes, between the politics and the society, between the politics and the society. So as regards the nature of political sociology is concerned, the nature of political sociology highlights its characteristics and approach. And the nature is the interdisciplinary in nature, where it combines insights from sociology, political science, economics, and history. Therefore, political sociology is not purely dominated by sociology discipline and alone. So, political sociology discourse is interdisciplinary in nature, where it combines lot of insights, from sociology, political science, economics, history, anthropology, and so on and so forth. So, therefore, the nature of political sociology is interdisciplinary in nature. And the another important characteristics of the nature of political sociology is it is empirical and analytical, where it focuses on real world data in the sense that it focuses on elections, voting patterns, social movements rather than just theory. So it is the nature of political sociology is based on the real world data. In other words, it focuses on empirical and analytical discourse. For instance, it focuses on elections, voting pattern, movements, and so on and so forth. Therefore, it is not just a theoretical discourse it can offer. It also focuses primarily on the empirical and analytical side of the society, right? So, and another important characteristics of political sociology is where it focuses on power and authority, right? So the central concern is power distribution, authority, and legitimacy, and which is actually, these ideas were actually given by Weber, Max Weber, very famous sociologist we have. And so as I told you that this political sociology, the nature is focused on power and authority. In other words, the central concern is how power is distributed in society, and how the authority is being maintained, and how legitimacy is being attached to that authority, and therefore, and how power is being not only distributed but also controlled the social behavior of the society in general. Therefore, the political sociology, the nature is it focuses on power and authority, where the central concern is to focus on how power is being distributed and how authority is maintained and how legitimacy is being attached to that authority in trying to maintain the law and order in society. So, therefore, this is precisely speaking about the nature of political sociology. And another important characteristics of the nature of political sociology is it is dynamic and changing. So, the political processes is not static; it keeps on changing. It evolves with social change. For instance, the political processes generally evolves with social change, with the impact of globalization, modernization and digital politics and so on and so forth. And now, if we can observe that, the elections in India were now governed by social media, right? The earlier it was not the case. And when we talk about 1950s elections, when we India got independence, the election pattern, the voting behavior was completely different. But today, with the impact of globalization, with the impact of modernity and science and technology, there is a change, from conventional politics to digitalization of the politics, right? So therefore, the political sociology always yearn to focus on the dynamic and changing nature of political processes. So therefore, the nature of political sociology is dynamic and changing. And the nature of political sociology is also both, it is micro and macro study. So what is micro? It focuses on the individual political behavior, such as voting, participation, and so on and so forth. And it also focuses on the macro nature of the study, where it focuses on the institutions, so state structures, political systems, and so on and so forth. Therefore, political sociology is such a discourse where it focuses on the minute details of the individual behavior to the larger behavior of the society and social structures at large, right? So therefore, it is both micro and micro study. It's both micro and macro study, right? So political sociology is not just concerns with the distribution of power alone. It concerns with how that such power is reproduced inequalities in society. For example, it studies how caste, class, gender, and religion influences political access and power. Therefore, it concerns with inequalities. It concerns with inequalities. So, the political sociology as a discourse, it concerns with lot of the problem that exist, with the eruption of inequalities in society. So this is the crux of the nature of political sociology. This is the crux of the nature of political sociology. So as regards the scope of, so political sociology is concerned, the scope refers to the wider range of topics it covered. That is the scope. What I mean here, scope here is the scope here refers to the wide range of topics it covered under the umbrella of political sociology. So what is that scope of the political sociology we'll try to study now? So one of the important aspects of the scope of political sociology is power and authority, right? It studies the types of power. For example, you have traditional, charismatic, legal, rational authorities, powers, and it also studies and how the legitimacy and domination is maintained in society. So that is the scope of the study. The scope of political sociology is it studies the power and authority, and it also studies the state and society relations. It studies the interaction between government and social groups. It studies the role of civil society. It studies the political institutions such as state, bureaucracy, political parties, judiciary, and it also studies the political culture and socialization in a way that how individuals develop political attitudes and values, and how the role of family, education, media influences the political culture and brings socialization to the individuals at large. And it also studies the political participation, for instance, the voting behavior of the individuals. For example, in each election pattern in India, there's a lot of the voting pattern is being studied by a lot of agencies, for example media, and whereas the particularly for the political sociologist is interested to study the voting behavior, that generally, and they try to predict the polls, right? Exit poll, all these things, they try to understand the political nature of the voting behavior of the voters. And they also study the why protests happen, why movements happen, why the activist activism gets developed into a new avatars, and what are its causes and what are its consequences, and so on and so forth. So therefore it studies the political participation of the individuals in society. And it also studies the role of elites, right? And it also studies the mass mobilization, that how mass is being participated in political movements. And it studies the social stratification in politics. For example, it studies caste politics, especially when it comes to Indian context, that Indian social structure is largely governed and ruled by, dominated by the caste system. So it studies that how political system is being attached to the caste system, and how caste system determines the political nature, and how political nature determines again with the caste system at large. So therefore, it studies that how caste politics is being maintained and governed in India. And it also focuses on the class and economic inequalities, and why economic inequalities exist in society, and what are its consequences, and what are its causes, and what will happen if those inequalities goes, strengthens day by day. So it also focuses on the gender. I know particularly the political sociology discourse. It leaves the marginalized identities. It doesn't leave the marginalized identities. It focuses on the for example, Dalits and the problem of Dalits in India. It focuses on the therefore, the stratification and politics is very much interlinked. The way the political sociology tries to offer an explanation that how politics is linked to the social stratification of this society. And it also studies the public policy and welfare of the society. For instance, it studies how policies affect different social groups, and it also studies how development and governance issues exist in society, and what are its consequences on the society at large. And it also studies the impact of global forces on national politics, right? There are a lot of since 1990s, there was an emergence of LPG, that's called liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And with the implementation of LPG policies in Indian context, and there was a lot of change that occurred on the social structure. And whether the political sociology as a discourse, it studies and how such forces, global forces, impact the social structure of the society, and what those international policies affected the social structure in a positive way, or it strengthened the increase in inequalities, and it tries to offer an explanation to such the impact. Therefore, political sociology, political sociology as a discipline, it tries to offer, provides a deeper understanding of politics by placing it within the broader social context, where it helps to explain not just how political system function, but why they function in particular ways based on social structures and inequalities. Therefore, political sociology as a discipline is a very dynamic branch of sociology that systematically studies the interaction between society and political systems. It emerged, the political sociology as a discipline emerged as an important field where scholars realized that political institutions cannot be understood in isolation from the social context in which they operate. Therefore, political sociology plays a crucial role to offer an explanation between the interplay between the political institutions and society. In other words, while political sociology, political science traditionally focuses on formal institutions like the state, constitution, and government, whereas the political sociology as a discipline goes beyond this to examine how social structures and such as caste, class, religion, gender, and ethnicity shape political behavior, leadership, policy making, and governance. For example, in India, voting patterns are not just influenced by party ideologies, but also by caste alignments, regional identities, and and economic conditions. Thus, political sociology, it bridges the gap between social realities and political processes. Historically, the roots of political sociology, therefore, can be, they have been traced, to classical thinkers such as Max Weber, Karl Marx. All these people, they try to explain the relationship between the power, authority, conflict, democracy, and so on and so forth in society. Therefore, friends, the political sociology is a dynamic branch of sociology which can offer systematically understanding to study the interaction between society and political systems. Okay, so therefore it emerged as an important field where scholars realize that political institutions cannot be understood in isolation from the social context in which they operate. Friends, so with this understanding, what we can think of is political sociology. It offers a comprehensive framework to understand how power operates within society. By linking social structures with political processes, it provides deeper insights into governance, participation, and inequality. It is especially significant in diverse societies like India, where social identities strongly shape political outcomes. Therefore, friends, in this class, we try to understand what is political sociology, what it can offer, and what it can engage, and how such political processes influences the behavior of individuals in society, and how such political processes influences the social structures, and how social structures in return influences the political processes. This discipline of social political sociology, it offers a comprehensive framework to understand and study how power operates within society. Friends, with this, we conclude this class, and in the next class, we'll try to understand more topics we have in political sociology discourse. Thank you for joining today.